So the topic here says that people who are suffering great pain have the right to end their life. Again, it's an abstract topic, and you must give very strong reasons as to why they have the right to end their life, or why they don't have the right to end their life. Right? I will begin with the first paragraph and see what we have mentioned. Again, as I said that in the first paragraph, you must introduce what exactly you have in mind, what the topic is all about. The topic above says that people suffering great pain have a right to end their life. A semicolon is as good as a full stop. The only difference is that after full stop you have a new sentence beginning with capital letter. In semicolon you don't have the capital letter. I mean, in a sentence that comes after the semicolon you don't have the capital letter. That's the only difference. The point is, why should you use a semicolon? Semicolon is used to separate two ideas that are very closely related, and that's why we have used semicolon here. The topic says that people suffering great pain have a right to end their life. To build an argument against or for the topic, we must delve a little deeper, right? Delve deeper is again a good way of expressing something. Always find a better word. One of the thumb rules of writing is that if you can replace a common word with a better word, a more elegant expression, always do that. But that will come through practice. And if you're taking too much of a time for that, you can go with a simpler word, no problem. You get marks for grammatical correctness. So long as your points are good, you are grammatically correct, you will get good marks. Then comes the elegance of writing, which may or may not be there, and which takes time to develop, right? So it says here, to build an argument against or for the topic, we must delve a little deeper into human nature. From where refers to what? Human nature, right? From where we might get some psychological insights on our instinctive love for life and our irrational fear of death. So the author says, to build an argument against or for the topic, comma, we must. To build an argument, again, this is basically acting like a modifier. To score 99 percentile in cat, comma, I must work hard, right? So you put a comma, right? And then you say, I must work hard. Why? Because this is an infinitive phrase. And if you have an infinitive phrase starting a sentence, or any kind of phrase starting a sentence, you must put a comma after the end of the phrase. And that is why we say here, to build an argument against or for that topic. To build is an infinitive, and this entire thing becomes an infinitive phrase, and therefore I have a comma here. To build an argument against or for the topic, and then I have the subject, we must delve a little deeper into what human nature, and then you have something extra, and therefore you put a comma, from where we might get some psychological insights on our instinctive love for life and our irrational fear of death. And then we have a new paragraph. We all have moments of despair. In which, right? Why in which? Why? Because now you have despair, and which basically refers to despair. In which we feel that, and what we feel something, and that something has come after that. So again, that is used to introduce a new clause. In which we feel that non-existence were far better than existence. And also then a comma, so you have basically ended things here. And also we have moments of delight in which we wish we were immortal, eternally enjoying the pleasures and surprises that life has to offer. This is basically a free modifier. A free modifier basically is a consequence of an action. You can go to my VAT videos and look at how to use free modifiers. Free modifiers are very elegant ways of expressing something, just as resumptive modifier and summative modifiers are, right? It says here that we all have moments of despair in which we feel that non-existence were far better than existence, and also we have moments of delight in which we wish we were immortal, eternally enjoying the pleasures and surprises that life has to offer. We all, and the author says, we all during sickness or tragedy, right? He says, we all during sickness or tragedy have periods of suffering, right? And then he says, an affliction, phases of such intense. So what is this modifier? This modifier refers to basically periods of suffering and affliction. We all have periods of suffering and affliction. And what are these periods? These are phases of such intense trial and tribulation that we feel like ending our life, such that, right, such was the intensity of the appeal that I couldn't help listening to that appeal. Such intense trial and tribulation, phases of such intense trial and tribulation that we feel like ending our life. So again, we have a nice way of expressing such that is an idiom, just as so that is an idiom, right? Similarly, you have just as, you have so idiom. So all these are idioms, and we have been using these idioms to express something in a better way. So he says, we all have periods of suffering and affliction, phases of such intense trial and tribulation that we feel like ending our life. But should we trust the wish of a man who at one time desires to be immortal while wants to end his life the very next? So the author says we have moments of despair when we feel like ending our life. And similarly, we have moments of happiness. And during these moments of sadness, we feel like ending our life. So the author says, but should we trust? Again, you have a rhetorical question. And when you have a rhetorical question, it is basically a denial. But should we trust the wish of a man who at one time desires to be immortal while wants to end his life the very next? No, we should not. That is what the author wants to say. Such a whimsical creature as man should not be trusted for his thoughts and desires, which, like the colors of the rainbow, are nothing but delusions. So man is whimsical. At one time he wants to end his life, at the other moment he wants to remain alive forever. So should we trust the thoughts and desires of? So again, you have a rhetorical construction. See, whenever you have rhetorical devices, you basically create a punch, and your readers and your listeners are completely engrossed or captivated by you. Such a whimsical creature as man should not be trusted for his thoughts and desires, which, and what this which refers to? Which refers to thoughts and desires. And this is again which, like the colors of the rainbow, are nothing but delusions. These thoughts and desires are nothing but delusions. And these thoughts and desires are like what? The colors of the rainbow. So the modifiers have been placed in such a beautiful manner that you get complete meaning out of it. Such a whimsical creature as man should not be trusted for his thoughts and desires, which are nothing but delusions. And what are they? They are like the colors of the rainbow. So you have put a modifier like the colors of the rainbow. And what does this basically, what is like the colors of the rainbow? It is which. And what is this which? This is desires, right? So the next paragraph. The will to live is deep and instinctive, while the desire for death is superficial and psychological, and only momentarily clouds our consciousness. A complete sentence has come here. This sentence is a compound sentence. Why it's a compound sentence? Because you have two different parts, and these two parts are joined by the conjunction while, which is contrasting, right? So basically, this is conjunction while, and this is base. So it says the will to live is deep and instinctive. While, which is basically a contrasting notion. You use while to show contrast. While you are rich, I am poor. It's a contrasting statement. So, but the function of while is also during that time. I was awake while you were sleeping. So at the time also means while, but while can also be used to express contrast. Here we have used while to express contrast, just as you would have used but. The will to live is deep and instinctive, while the desire for death is superficial and psychological. And this desire is only momentary. This desire only momentarily clouds our consciousness. This instinctive love for life, which we often see even in the most solitary of animals that often have no society, will always be there regardless of what our physical and mental state is. The author is getting into the psychological side. He says that the will to live is instinctive, while the desire for death is superficial, it is momentary, and we should not trust that momentary desire. He says to try to end one's life is to go against this principle. What is that principle? The instinctive love for life will always be there, regardless of our physical and mental state. And what is this principle? To try to end one's life is to go against this principle. And what is this principle? Resumptive modifier. Look at this. Again, I'm giving examples of all the grammatical constructions that I use. To try to end one's life is to go against this principle. And what is that principle? You have described it in the form of a phrase. The principle of instinctive will to live under any circumstance, to adapt to any condition. So, I'm trying to build a bridge, comma, a bridge that will help you travel from this end of the city to the other end of the city. It's a very good way of basically extending your idea. I'm trying to write a novel that will teach you the lessons of life. So a resumptive modifier is a very, very beautiful way of taking your idea ahead and emphasizing on that idea. It's not just taking the idea ahead, but also about emphasizing on the idea. To try to end one's life is to go against this principle. What is this principle? The principle of instinctive will to live under any circumstance, to adapt to any condition. The idea of pain should not bother us much. Because, for means because, understand, it's a milder form of because if the pain is too prolonged and too severe, death in that case would be inevitable. And if that pain is not too prolonged or too severe, the body will find ways to cure that pain. So why do you need to end life? This is what the author says. He says if the pain is too prolonged or too severe, death would be inevitable, because the body will finally give way. Right? But if that pain is not too prolonged, the body will find ways to cure that pain. So why should you, what the body can do, what nature can do, why should you interfere in that, is what the author wants to say. Then he says, a short phase of suffering or pain should not blind us to the truth that life is sacred. When we see someone suffer, we take so much pity on him that, again, so that has been used. We take so much pity on him that we wish he were dead. But that wish is nothing but a reaction that is rooted not in reason but in feeling. And what is that feeling? Again, a resumptive modifier. A momentary feeling of getting rid of something by the quickest possible means. We need the article the here. By the quickest. So he says that he says when we see someone suffer, we take, again you have a idiom, so much pity on him that we wish he were dead. But that wish is nothing but a reaction that is rooted not in reason but in feeling. And what is that feeling? A resumptive modifier, a momentary feeling of getting rid of something by quickest possible means. We must not trust such feelings, either in ourselves or in others. Parallel construction. Either X. What is X? In ourselves. What is Y? In others. Understand, good writing is all about unconsciously applying the principles of good writing. We must not trust such feelings either in ourselves or in others. Our consciousness and highly developed nervous system make us acutely sensitive to the pleasures and pains of life. Our consciousness, one thing, and highly developed nervous system, the second thing, and therefore we have a verb which is plural. Our consciousness makes us acutely sensitive. Our consciousness and highly developed nervous system make us acutely sensitive to the pleasures and pains of life. This sensitivity to a great extent controls our base desires. Base means basically lower desires, lower form of desires, and base instincts. But our faculty of reason and our sense of right and wrong should not be swayed by or influenced by these base instincts and desires that might occasionally govern our thoughts. It's a very long but very beautifully written sentence. our faculty of reason and our sense of right and wrong should not be swayed by these base instincts and desires that might occasionally govern our thoughts. The author basically is little, I would say he's little, what we say is he's pontifying, he's preaching as if one thing is right and the other thing is wrong, and why one thing is right and why the other thing is wrong. To conclude this topic, I would add that, and what he's trying to add, he's trying to add that just as momentary passions of anger and lust should not become our masters and govern our actions directed at others, so he says just as momentary passion and anger and lust, momentary passions of anger and lust should not become our masters and govern our actions directed at others. So, the phases and pain and suffering, the phases of pain and suffering. I am sorry here again. These are errors. See, I have written these essays. So the phases of pain and suffering should not hold sway over our reason and make us commit crimes on our own self. Such a thing as bodily pain, no matter how severe, will find its exit because what comes from nature will go back to nature. Again, we have just as, so, the idiom, right? Such a thing as, right? So, again, you will find that the whole essay is replete with idioms. So, you have the conclusion at the end, you have the introduction, right? And then you say what is the will to live and what is pain, why we should not give importance to moments of suffering. So basically it is unidirectional.